Box shadows. Another popular idea when creating borders was to shadow certain parts. And the reason we do this is so that it looks like the element is rising above another element. This used to be done with images. Thankfully, we can do that with CSS3 now. Now for us developers, this is a lot faster and this is a much more convenient way for doing it. So let's look at the property. We have box-shadow, and it accepts all of this in one line. First we have the horizontal shadow, then a vertical shadow, then we have blur, spread, color, inset or outset. So blur, spread, color, inset or outset, those are all optional values. You don't have to write those in there. The horizontal shadow is where on the x-axis that the shadow should be. So from your left to right, how far over do you want to move it? You can use a negative value for this too. So if you want to move your shadow over 10 pixels to the left, you would do minus 10 pixels. Vertical shadow is the same thing. You can use negative integers here, and this moves your shadow along the y-axis. Positive number will move your shadow downwards. Negative number will move your shadow upwards. Blur, which is optional, is how much your shadow should be blurred. Spread, which is optional, how much the shadow will spread out. So whether it's a really thick shadow or if it's a thinner shadow. Color, which is optional. Default is black, but you can change your color to anything you like. Inset or outset, which is optional. Inset, the shadow is inside the element. So instead of thinking of inset, you could think of inside. And outset, the shadow will be outside of the element, which is default. The box shadow property must have a horizontal and vertical value. It absolutely needs these two values to work. Everything else is optional. This property is better explained visually. So our first example, with all of our examples, we have the box class, and we're going to go more and more into it as we get farther along. So right now we just have the basic. We have a 10 pixel horizontal, 10 pixel vertical, and this is going to create a shadow that looks like this. We also added the background color of red to every element here, and that's just so you can see where the shadow exactly is. Now to show you how a blur works, we added a 50 pixel blur, and this is what a 50 pixel blur looks like. It's a lot thinner, whereas before our shadow was a lot thicker, a lot more defined. Then in here we have our spread. We added a 10 pixel spread and changed the blur to 25 pixels so the blur isn't as thin. The 10 pixel spread will spread out your box shadow just a little bit more. Then here we added our color, so instead of having the default black color, we changed it to blue. And lastly, instead of using the default outset, we used the inset. We also changed all the values here, so there's a 2 pixel horizontal, 2 pixel vertical, 10 pixel blur, and 8 pixel spread. We use the color of blue, and we change it to inset so that our shadow is inside of our element instead of outside of our element. Our shadow color is blue, and that's this blue part that you see around here. And that's how you apply a box shadow to pretty much any element. And this is supported in all 5 browsers. You do need to have Internet Explorer 9 or greater. Anything below that probably won't work. And yeah, that's a box shadow.